Hey friends! Welcome back for another magical movie review. It's me, Magic by Molly. This week we're continuing our Harry Potter series with Deathly Hallows Part 1. If you haven't been here before, definitely go to my page right now and watch the other ones to catch up. And while you're over there, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. As a reminder, we break down magical movie review into 5 parts. We've got the magical recap, where I try to bring you the quickest recap summary of the movie that I can to jog your memory if it's been a while if you've seen it or if you've never seen it before. We also talk about our magical moments, which are things that I like about the movie, things that really stand out to me. We also talk about enchanting efforts, which are things that don't land quite well or just kind of leave big question marks over my head. We also select a VMP, or a very magical person, who kind of wins the episode. And then last off, we end with my rankings of the Harry Potter or Wizarding World films so far. I don't really have a whole lot of like swag for Deathly Hallows necessarily, so I'm wearing my Hufflepuff sweatshirt because for whatever reason I'm cold today. But I am rocking my Deathly Hallows bow. I've worn this a couple times now because I'm trying to use headbands versus hair ties so I can let my little baby hairs grow back. But today I'm like, yes, wearing my Deathly Hallows. Finally it's appropriate, whereas before, oops, we hadn't been introduced to Deathly Hallows yet. Alright, we're just gonna jump right in with the magical recap. For these, I have everything written down, so I'm gonna be looking at my phone while I do this. I don't have these things memorized yet because that's just not who I am as a person, and also I wanna make sure that I get it right. So here we go. Everyone plans for Harry's transport to the Burrow. They're betrayed and met with Death Eaters. Hedwig dies. Dumbledore leaves Ron a portable light switch, Hermione a book, and Harry a snitch in his will. Fleur and Bill have a wedding that is interrupted by, you guessed it, Death Eaters. Harry, Ron, and Hermione escape and are tracked down by, yet again, some more Death Eaters. They break into the Ministry to steal back the necklace Horcrux from Umbridge. They take it again to the woods to hide. In the meantime, the necklace makes Ron crazy and he storms away, leaving Harry and Hermione to travel alone. Eventually he finds them again, and just in time, as Harry's drowning in a frozen lake trying to get the sword of Gryffindor that has mysteriously appeared. They go to visit Luna's dad, Mr. Lovegood, to learn more about his repetitive symbol, which ends up being the Deathly Hallows, a symbol for the Master of Death. And of course, then comes more Death Eaters. The trio makes it to the woods and gets trapped and taken by some Snatchers who seem to be in cahoots with Death Eaters. They take them to Malfoy Manor, where they find Luna, Ollivander, and Griphook the Goblin. Dobby comes to their rescue, and he's breaking them out in a cloud of smoke when Bellatrix throws a knife and stabs Dobby, killing him. The movie ends with Voldemort grave robbing Dumbledore for the Elder Wand. This was a lot. This was a big movie, and it's definitely appropriate that they broke the 7th book into 2 parts. I kind of almost wish that they had done it for all the books, but you know, then that's just going a little bit too crazy. So we'll just jump right into magical moments. First, when everybody comes to Harry to help him escape Privet Drive and be transported to the Burrow is just a magical moment because of course they just all care about him so much and they're willing to risk their lives to take him to safety. He's kind of he's the chosen one. He's going to be the one that ends up taking down Voldemort, and they all know that, but at the same time he's also a symbol of hope for them, and it's hard for him to really see that. But when the half of them take the Polyjuice potion and we see like the transformation of everybody, I get the biggest kick out of that, and the best combo is the Hermione Granger and Harry Potter combo with like mostly Hermione and then just like a giant unibrow, which is just hysterical. Also, another magical moment for me that's related is when they're actually transporting and they're in the heat of battle, when Hedwig flies in to help Harry and try to protect him, and she dies. That's such an incredibly sad moment, and I never really understood why that had to be. Granted, I enjoy, which sounds terrible, the way Hedwig dies in the movie to me does her more justice than the way she dies in the book. That's all I'll say about that. But I did learn that J.K. Rowling decided to kill off Hedwig in her stories because Hedwig is a symbol of Harry's childhood, and that's kind of the moment when in the story we realize as the reader that he's not a kid anymore. He's not going back to school this year. He's branching out on his own, hunting horcruxes, trying to save the wizarding world, and Hedwig unfortunately is the symbol of everything that he's leaving behind. So while it's an incredibly sad moment, it's also a magical moment to me in that there's so much symbolism and poetry within that I just really, really enjoy stuff like that. I would say the next big magical moment, which is something that Adam and I talked about for a while or several points throughout the movie, is more of a theming of, there's always this debate, or like people in forums or however you want to call it, they say Harry and Hermione should have been together, or they have more chemistry than Hermione and Ron do, and maybe that's true, sure, but there's something beautiful about Harry and Hermione, especially in this movie. It's incredibly relevant that it's possible to write really strong characters, male, female, and have them have a friendship and a real chemistry, and it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. Harry and Hermione just get each other, they're in sync, they hold each other close, they feel each other's pain, and yet there's nothing romantic there for them. And I think that that's incredibly special to see, that we don't have to have them fall in love for it to be a beautiful relationship, in my opinion. I would also say the tale of three brothers is probably the next really, really big magical moment for me. Interesting choice there to switch it to like an animated storytelling as Hermione is reading it. Just how intricate and beautifully it's drawn, and the take that they did on it. I just love everything about the three brothers story. I like its meaning. I like the animation. I just love everything about that, and enough for me to get it tattooed on my body, which of course I'd made the choice to wear long sleeves today, so it doesn't really make sense for me to show it to you, but it's almost like a story within a story, which of course we're getting that along the way with learning more about Voldemort. Like, that's an inner plot, and it's a story that comes out of a children's book but is incredibly relevant to the story and how things are going to end for Harry Potter. So I love watching it. I like interpreting what it means and how I feel about each of the brothers and everything, and we could get into a whole conversation about which of the Hallows is the best one and everything. So that's just a huge magical moment because it's just so thought-provoking and it's hugely symbolic for the story. Another really great magical moment for me comes right after the story of the three brothers, when they escape the Lovegoods house and they get to the woods and they meet up with the Snatchers and they run. The whole running sequence to me is such a great cinematic moment for Harry Potter. It's not flashy magic that's happening. There's magic happening with like chains flying and little explosions here and there, but it's very subtle, it's very raw, and you've got actors, stunt actors clearly, who like know a little bit of parkour, so there's some like physicality to it, and there's no music. It's only the sound of everybody breathing and running through the woods, snapping twigs, the little explosions and the magic, the chains that's happening. Every time I watch that scene, I'm just incredibly entranced, which is odd for like it being the least magical moment throughout the film. Like, there's not a whole lot of magic happening, and yet I'm so sucked in because of the way that they filmed it, and of course that's probably exactly what they were going for, and I think that they pulled it off. And then of course the other gut-wrenching death in the film is Dobby's death. I think it's another moment where Harry is losing something from his childhood days, something that he thought would always be there, something that had always been reliable. Everybody being there for Harry in Dobby's death is beautiful, and I think it's so incredibly important that Luna was there with him in that moment as well, because oddly Luna has been there to help Harry process every major death that he has encountered through the books. Cedric, Sirius, Dobby. So I think that was a really special moment for us to watch, and for her to say now he just looks like he's sleeping. And I think that was just as much for the audience as it was for Harry, because everybody loves Dobby. Dobby is one of the most popular characters within the story. So another really, really sad, emotional moment. Such an incredibly powerful moment to say that this adventure that they're going on, this challenge that they're facing, is very real. Lives are and will be lost. And for me, when I watched the movie for the first time in theaters, I had actually not read the book. When I was a kid, I stopped reading the books at around Goblet of Fire, because in school we got points for reading books, and so I read Harry Potter really quickly. And then there were so many required books, and then we couldn't really read as much of the stuff that we wanted to read, and then I got burnt out. So it actually took me quite a long time to read the books. I didn't read them all the way through until 5 years ago, 2015. Yeah, that was when I read 5, 6, and 7. So all the movies had already come out at that point. So when I watched this, watching Dobby and Hedwig die for that matter, it was like somebody reached in and just like squeezed my heart until I thought I was gonna pass out, because I was so devastated. So ending the magical moments on a terrible note, let's go ahead and just dive right into the Enchanting Efforts. First enchanting effort for me, which was really more of a huge question mark above my head. In the beginning, when Voldemort is sitting at the long table with all the Death Eaters and Snape and Bellatrix, and they're talking about Harry Potter, and Bellatrix is like, I'd love to have the honor of killing him, and Voldemort's like, no, I have to do it. But then presents the information that somebody needs to volunteer their wand, because Voldemort and Harry's are brothers and they're not going to be able to like out battle each other. So he's like, I need somebody to give me their wand. Then nobody says anything. And I don't know why, but it bothers me every time. I'm like, Bellatrix, you were literally just offering to murder someone for Voldemort, which you would have used your wand for anyway. Why wouldn't you volunteer your wand to Voldemort? Isn't there just as much honor or obsession with Voldemort? Like, that part I really don't understand. And then he takes Lucius Malfoy's, and Lucius is just a bitch throughout the entire movie. I would say my next really big enchanting effort that just kind of annoys me, slash I wish they would have spent more time on it, is Moody's death. I feel like that was very passé. Like, Bill's just like, Moody's dead. It was Mundungus's fault. And then, like, the scene is kind of over. Granted, Moody didn't get as much screen time as I think he should have in any of the movies anyway, but it doesn't really hit home, like, the complete impact of what just happened and, like, how Harry feels about it. Oh, and I totally skipped over Hermione obliviating her parents to completely forget who she is. I don't understand why they made that decision in the movie to have her obliviate her parents, wipe her out completely from their memory, leave empty picture frames everywhere. There's so many options that they could have had outside of what they did in the book. It just doesn't make sense to me that Hermione is just completely willing to leave her family behind for the wizarding world. Or there's not really any answers as far as like, will she go back? Will she bring the memory back? That kind of thing. I was just completely annoyed by that, and I get that they were doing it for like super dramatic effect. And it was dramatic. They definitely pulled that part off. I just think it was too much for her skipping school. Like, they could have changed their memory to say that she was studying abroad and that they wouldn't see her for Christmas. Like, so many options, and they didn't take any of them. So for my VMP for this week, I think I'm finally gonna say that Harry Potter is our VMP. It only took us 7 movies but we finally got here. I think Harry is incredibly noble. He's also very real. There's a lot of humbling moments that Harry has when he loses Hedwig and you see that pain in his eyes, when he dances with Hermione when Ron leaves, and when Dobby dies. I think there's just some real emotion there that I really appreciate. Also, the moment when he basically does a mic drop in front of Umbridge and says, "I'm sorry, Dolores, you mustn't tell lies." I get hype every time. So I think he's standing out more as an independent person and taking charge. And I feel like he's more of a leader in this movie. And he's doing more problem solving. He figures out the snitch, like he swallowed it almost the first time versus like grabbing it with his hand. And that's how the "I open at the close" sign shows up, and being brave to go to Godric's Hollow without having a polyjuice potion. And in this movie he's doing more of the saving and helping to come up with the ideas versus like most of the other people in the other films have figured things out for him. And I think he's doing a little bit more of that for the group or for the characters in this film. So that brings us to our rankings of the movie so far. I didn't really have a whole lot of trouble coming up with where this was going to be. While I do love this movie, I am going to stick with Prisoner of Azkaban, Half-Blood Prince, Order of the Phoenix, Deathly Hallows Part 1, Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Goblet of Fire. I almost forgot Goblet of Fire there at the end. See? That tells you how much I really do want to keep it at the bottom of my list. Thank you guys so much for coming back every week. Some of you have reached out with some of your thoughts about the movies, which has been really, really fun for me. Comment below with your rankings or how you feel about this movie. If you have any particular thoughts about magical moments, enchanting efforts, or if you have somebody else that you'd like to nominate as a VMP. Don't forget to like and subscribe this video, and if you're an Instagrammer like myself, go ahead on over there and follow me at MagicXMolly. I hope you guys have had a magical Monday and have a wonderful week.